So tonight we're going to read Nahum. As always, the prophets reveal in part what Mashiach would come to do, who Mashiach is, but also prophesy about the end times. And in this case, the name Nahum, you see here, now in the Hebrew would be here, Nahum, as you can see, has the same root, or has as its root the name Noach. And if I add the Vav and Mem, we have the prophet Nahum. So it is the same root. Naham, rest, pretty much. But the point or the reason why I mention it is because, as you guys know, the Messiah told us that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noach. So Nahum refers to that. In fact, we could see Nahum as the Noach of the end times, because the Noach of the end times is the prophet like Moshe. So the fact that we have a prophet named Nahum, a parallel of the last, who is the prophet like Moshe, the son of man like Noach, like in the days of Noach. And if we see the name, for instance, Noach here, then we have the Vav, which represents the son of man, and the Mem, the last Mem, which represents the world completed, and also is the first letter of the name Mashiach. So we could see the Noach coming as the son of man, Mashiach of the end. So Nahum makes reference to the end times, the coming of the Son of Man, as Noach, as a prophet, to bring rest to the world. And that's why when he comes, pretty much the millennium begins, which is the actual Shabbat. So, and well, just so you guys know, the numerical value would be 104. 104. So now let's begin. It says, verse 1 of Nahum. The message concerning Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the El-Koshite. First, look how he is being sent, or how he is given a prophecy regarding Nineveh, which is the same place where Jonah was sent. So right there, we see another connection. The coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noach. He would be a prophet, the prophet, just like Nahum is a prophet connected with Noach. He will bring rest because the Shabbat begins as he is on earth. And Mashiach said regarding the last generation, that is the most evil generation, that to that generation, this generation in which we are living at the moment, wouldn't be given a sign except the sign of Jonah. So Jonah, Noach, Moshe are all connected with the second manifestation of the Most High on earth. Jonah, according to Jewish tradition, and I mention it because I do believe this part of it to be correct, that he went to preach in Israel before he went to Nineveh. Since they believed in what he was saying, they repented. So when they repented, the punishment didn't come, just like it happened later on in Nineveh. And because of that, he was called a false prophet in Israel. So when he was sent in the book of Jonah to the land of Nineveh, he didn't want to go because he knew that that could happen again. And he didn't want to be known as a false prophet inside the land of Israel and outside the land of Israel. And that we see in the life of Jonah is pretty much a parallel of how Mashiach would come first to Israel. And until now, he's called a false prophet by the Jewish people, the supposed Yahudim. And now the second manifestation would be going around the nations. That's why Jonah first went to Israel and then to Nineveh, representing the nations. So he is being sent to Nineveh just like Jonah. So now he's connected with Jonah, as both are connected with the last. Obviously, Mashiach also fulfilled the sign of Jonah, for he was in Sheol for 3 days and 3 nights. But mentioned regarding his life before going to Nineveh, the life of Jonah, I mean, and many other details, it mainly refers to the end. So the message concerning Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the Elkoshite. So let me go and look at this word. Here it is, the name Nineveh. Nineveh. This could be read Ninu, but in this case, because of the hay and other reasons, the vav is acting like a V, and therefore Nineveh. But my point of Ninu is because, as you can see, Nineveh is the abode of Ninus. So the name Ninu is found within it. So like I said, a false deity. Well, here it is. According to Greek historians writing in the Hellenistic period and later, was the mythical founder of Nineveh, ancient capital of Assyria. Some claim that Nimrod, who claimed to be a god, as they would say, was the founder of Nineveh. So in that case, Ninus would be a term or a different title or name for Nimrod. I mean, that's a possibility, for that's what many believe in Judaism, that Nimrod was the founder of Nineveh. And the fact that that is possible connects with the fact that Nimrod is the main person that represents the first beast of Revelation 13, the little horn of the book of Daniel. And he will make the new world order and be the ruler of it. So it kind of fits with Nimrod creating Nineveh and Jonah being sent to Nineveh to preach. So then we have El Shi, which is Elohim the ensnarer. And lastly, Nahum, which I already mentioned. In this case, is translated as comfort. Here it is, consolation, comfort. All right, so his name is comfort, consolation, which connects with the Ruach HaKodesh. Just like Mashiach said that he would leave for the comforter to come, and he would only come if Mashiach would leave first. So that fits with the fact that the Ruach HaKodesh, as the Spirit, would come down to be with the believers, just like it did during the time of Shavuot. But other than that, it was also a prophecy of the last coming with the Ruach to bring comfort as Nahum. So going back to the verse, the message concerning the abode of Ninus, the book of the Comforter, he who brings consolation from the mighty one who will trap the enemy, pretty much, who snares. So, verse 2. And well, now that I mentioned that, El Koshite and Nineveh kind of makes reference to how Yahweh will trap the mighty one of the world, as in the fish that ate Jonah, that represents Sheol, death, and Dagon, as in the fish god, as they call it, right? The one that the Philistines worship. It is said by some that Nineveh was also another place that worshiped the fish as a god, as a deity. So that's why Yahweh made a fish eat Jonah and then have to spit it out, so that the Ninevites would realize that Yahweh, the mighty one of Yonah, was greater than the mighty one that they worship, because the mighty one that they worship, the huge fish, which they saw as a deity, wasn't able to consume Yonah after 3 days and 3 nights, just like death couldn't consume Mashiach. So it will, and as you know, fish, you have to put, well, there are different ways to catch fish, but we see the disciples as they did it. Mashiach told them where to throw the net, and where they did, that's how they caught um, more fish than ever. So now we see the mighty one who will ensnare those who are in Nineveh worshiping the fish, the false deity. And the one bringing the prophecy is Nahum, whose name is connected with comfort, yet he's not about to bring comfort to the wicked. So this is something that we must understand. The last is bringing plagues to the wicked, but good things to the chosen few. So, verse 2, Yahweh is a jealous and revenging mighty one, El. Yahweh is a revenger and a possessor of wrath. This is important. Look how, for instance, it says possessor of wrath. It doesn't say that he is wrathful. He possesses the ability to be angry because of evil, because of wickedness, because of injustice. He brings revenge on the wicked because he possesses the true wrath, that which has no evil within it, which is about to manifest in the end times, as when we see in the sixth seal, when they say, well, in that case, they say the wrath of the Lamb. But as we know, after that comes the wrath of Yahweh, the Father. So, jealous and revenging mighty one, El. He is jealous, as we see in the book of Exodus. He says, I am a jealous mighty one, and my name is jealous. So the fact that people call on a different name makes him jealous. Look how Nahum is being sent to Nineveh, which is one of the pagan nations. And the first thing that he says is that Yahweh is jealous, as if Yahweh had a relationship with them, which he didn't yet, in the sense that Mashiach came to open the doors for all nations. So after Mashiach, yeah, he will get jealous of those who claim to believe in him, but then worship another one. They claim to believe in Yahweh, but worship Jehovah. They claim to believe in Yahweh, but worship God. And as we know, Jehovah means, here's ruin. Behold the ruin. And God means fortune, the mighty one mentioned in Isaiah 65:11. So Yahweh is jealous. So we should be careful not to disrespect him, not to put anything or anybody in the place that only belongs to him within our heart, our minds, our lives in general. And revenging, mighty one. Yahweh is a revenger and a possessor of wrath. Yahweh takes vengeance on his adversaries, and he watches for his enemies. So interesting, I find at least, that Nahum, consolation, the comforter, brings this message, right? He just started and he's bringing vengeance, revenge, wrath, jealousy. Yahweh takes vengeance on his adversaries and he watches for his enemies. Look how he says he watches for his enemies. He does not, he gives them time. He's watching, waiting to see how they will act, to see if they will repent or rebel more. That's why it says later, Yahweh is patient. Yahweh is patient. That's why he's watching. Yet the enemy, because of the way they would act, because they are not patient, because patience is one of the fruits of the Ruach. If you don't have the Ruach of Yahweh, you won't be patient. Therefore, the wicked are not patient. So since they are not patient, they expect Yahweh to not be patient. So when they act wickedly, they expect revenge to come immediately. And since it doesn't come immediately because Yahweh is patient, then they think that Yahweh doesn't exist or that he won't bring revenge. So that's why these verses are very important, because he's saying that he will bring revenge, but also that he is patient. So on the one hand, the enemy is mistaken when he stops believing that there is justice, that there is a mighty one seeing him or her at all times. And on the other hand, the righteous should rest in the fact that Yahweh will bring vengeance on all of those who are wicked, and all of those who have done any evil to those who are chosen. He watches for his enemies. Yahweh is patient and great in power, but by no means leaves unpunished. By no means leaves unpunished. So very important for us to accept Messiah in order for our sins to be washed away, because he by no means will leave anything unpunished. So we must be cleansed in order to not be punished. Yahweh is patient and great in power, but by no means leaves unpunished. Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind, right? Like the Ruach, the wind, and in the storm, like the voice, thunder. And the clouds are the dust of his feet. As we know, clouds hold water, at least some, in the sense of what we see in scriptures regarding those who are like clouds without water. But clouds are supposed to hold water, of course, because that's where rain comes from. So they represent blessing, they represent heavenly water, of course, that being the water of life. That mainly in the positive, of course. Also, the clouds are the dust of his feet. Dust represents the lowest of all. Yet clouds to us are beautiful and way, way above our heads. So the fact that clouds are the dust of his feet are to show his greatness, how high and great he is. For clouds that are so beautiful, nice, and high to be so low in regards to him. His way in the whirlwind, where no one would be able to find a way or know where to go, in the sense of in the middle of the whirlwind, and the sense that scripture says regarding the wind that you know where it comes from and where it's going. And that is how the righteous are, because of the ruach within them. No matter what people see in you, they don't know what Yahweh has waiting for you and what you will become, no matter where you have come from, etc. So Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind. Let me see this verse 3. Okay. Yahweh erech apim darko ve'anan. All right. So this verse connects with Kings when it talks about Eliyahu. I guess it doesn't appear with that word exactly. I'll explain this as brief as possible. When Moshe was chosen to go up for the tablets with the commandments, it says that he spoke with Elohim face to face. He obviously saw something or somebody, that being an angel, and they all, not only Moshe, thought that was the Most High, not understanding that that was a messenger from the Most High that represented him in every way. So that's how in Hebrew culture, it will be taken as being exactly the same person that sent the messenger. I mean, the messenger represents in every way he who sent him. So we see in the Torah that Moshe spoke with Elohim face to face, that he appeared with a fire and a strong wind and earthquake on that mountain, and everybody saw him and they were afraid, and they even asked the Most High not to speak to them directly anymore, but to send a person. So now on the other extreme, we have Yahushua, who goes also 40 days and 40 nights to the desert, just like Moshe was in the desert and went up 40 days and 40 nights to get the tablets. Mashiach goes to the desert 40 days and 40 nights, and he, in this case, is tempted by Satan, who appears like an angel of light. And one of the things that this angel tells Mashiach is to kneel before him. So I'm pretty sure Moshe he knelt before the angel that he saw. But now on the other extreme, we have Mashiach not kneeling before this angel, which is Satan, for he came to tempt Mashiach. In the middle of those two events, the Torah and the New Covenant, we have within the writings, in this case, the Book of Kings, something that is very interesting that happens with Eliyahu. So here we have the three people that Yahweh promised to send. Eliyahu to prepare the way for Mashiach, and then the prophet like Moshe. So throughout history, we have Moshe, Eliyahu, and Mashiach. I already mentioned the two cases with the 40 days and 40 nights in the desert of both Moshe and Mashiach. They both saw an angel. One knelt before it because he thought that was the Most High, and it was understandable at that time. So he didn't sin at the moment because the truth had not come. When the truth comes, he shows that the angel that appeared in the desert those 40 days and 40 nights is Satan, for he was looking for humanity to kneel before him and worship the enemy instead of the Most High. So in the middle, we have Eliyahu, and through his story, Yahweh reveals something very interesting to us. So first, you see how it says, and the angel of Yahweh came back the second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you. So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. So he was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, just like Mashiach, just like Moshe. He went to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim, which is the other peak of the mountain of Sinai, where the tablets were given, the commandments. So we see once again 40 days, 40 nights, just like Moshe, just like Mashiach, in the desert, just like Moshe, just like Mashiach. In Horeb, just like Moshe. Perhaps we don't know where Mashiach went during those 40 days in the desert, which desert exactly, right? But we know that the angel took him to a very high mountain. So he was also on a mountain with Satan, Mashiach. So then it continues, he went to a cave. Now here. Then he said, go out and stand on the mountain before Yahweh. And behold, Yahweh passed by. and a great and strong wind, so like a whirlwind, a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before Yahweh. But Yahweh was not in the wind. And after the wind and an earthquake, well, just let me find it here real quick, not to see all those titles and false names. Here it is. And he said, go out and stand on the mountain before Yahweh and see. Yahweh passed by, and a great and strong wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahweh. Yahweh was not in the wind. So look how this story is separating who Yahweh is and what happens when he appears, or the angel in charge of the show, if I can use that word, in order to bring fear in the hearts of those about to see the king. So it is like Yahweh is the Ruach of goodness, yet there is an angel that was in charge of appearing before humans in order to make humans respect Yahweh as he is supposed to be respected. Yet this angel wanted the worship for himself and became pretty much evil. And we start seeing that separation here, because we see a great and strong wind, which would be Ruach, spirit, tearing the mountains, kingdoms, and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahweh. Yahweh was not in the wind. So Yahweh was not that wind. Yahweh was not the one destroying the rocks and the mountains. But there was something before him that had to come to pretty much prepare the way. If we could say that, just like Eliyahu had to appear like Yahuhanan the immerser to prepare the way for Mashiach. But he was not with Mashiach. And he got his head cut off. And that's when Mashiach said in the book of Thomas that the head of prophecy, meaning the angel in charge of prophecy, got his head cut off when the head of John the Baptist was cut off. So John the Baptist, Eliyahu, represented the angel that comes before preparing the way. That's why Eliyahu, John the Baptist, were under another administration. And that's why Mashiach had to come to start the new administration, becoming the second Adam, the last Adam, to start everything spiritually. So that's why John the Baptist had to die before him, Eliyahu, because like Yahushua told his disciples when they said, do you want us to bring fire from the heavens? Yahushua said, do you not know of what spirit you are? Meaning they wanted to bring fire like Eliyahu, but that was a different spirit. Yahushua was bringing mercy. They were talking about bringing judgment. But another way in which we can see that is that Eliyahu was working pretty much under an angel. And that's why it didn't fit exactly with the role that Yahushua came to fulfill. And that's why John the Baptist could not become his disciple, or did not become his disciple, as he himself said that he wasn't worthy of even touching the straps of his sandals, right, to tie them up, or untied his sandals, in fact, which referred to the fact that John the Baptist could not come to preach the good news of Mashiach. He could only come to prepare the way for what Mashiach came to do, just like we are seeing here. And another way in which we can explain this is that before Yahweh could manifest as he is, he had to prepare something. And that something is pretty much what we are experiencing in this reality, in this time. We needed to be prepared. And also Yahweh needed to see who were going to be the ones to whom he would give the gift of eternal life, based on how each and every person used this life, based on how everybody, each and every person, used the temporal life given to them in this reality, is how they will be judged in order to see if they will go to the next one or not, if they should or not. So That's why something else different than Yahweh had to come first. That's why something that wasn't real had to come, an illusion, a show, to see how people would act with it, as it is written also in the New Covenant, that depending on if you were faithful with little, then you will be given much. But if you are not faithful with a few, with little, then you're not going to be given anything else because you weren't even faithful with the little. So once again, and he said, go out and stand on the mountain before Yahweh and see Yahweh pass by. So Yahweh was passing by, and a great strong wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahweh. Everybody would have said, oh, that is Yahweh breaking everything. But no, that is not Yahweh. That was something that came before him. And like I always say, and that's why I use the word show, because Lucifer, Halel, that angel, is in charge of Hollywood. It's all about making a show. And that's why he will make the greatest show of the world, in the sense of the greatest illusion, to trick everybody when he appears as the Christ. And everybody will believe that he is, well, everybody in the world will believe that he is and will accept him. So Yahweh was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. Yahweh was not in the earthquake. So there is something other than Yahweh doing these things. These same things happen when the commandments were given, but this separation was not revealed. So I hope that is being understood. And after the earthquake, a fire. Yahweh was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. That was Yahweh, because it doesn't say, but Yahweh was not in the voice. So Yahweh is the voice. As we know, Yahushua came as the word. The last comes as the voice. When they heard the voice of Yahweh on Mount Sinai, they said, please do not speak to us directly. Please send somebody to speak to us. So the last is the voice sent by Yahweh. And look how it also says small, as we have spoken regarding the last, represented by Paul, who is small. Small voice, still small voice. And also still, as in the fact that Yahweh is at rest, for he is eternal. He doesn't need to yell, for instance. So still small voice was the revelation. Sometimes we expect the confirmations from the Most High to come in a amazing fashion because of what we've seen in movies. We expect things to be, I don't know, like, I don't even know what word to use, but then we realize that Yahweh was already speaking to us from within with a still small voice. So we need to be at rest. We need to become small in the sense of humble. We need to be at rest still, not going from place to place, wondering, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? When are you going to speak to me? Is it here? Is it there? Is it from this person? Is it from... We should rest, trust, have faith, and then we will know. Then the voice will come. So a lot of people will see the earthquake and say, that is it. But that wasn't Yahweh, even though Yahweh was using that. So we need to understand that with the angels as well. Yahweh created the angels for a purpose. Yet Yahweh is not the angels. So, and it came to be when Eliyahu heard it that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood at the cave opening, and see, a voice came to him and said, what are you doing here, Eliyahu? And see, he says, and he said, I have been very jealous for Yahweh Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your slaughtered places, etc., etc. So look how he mentions he's being jealous after a fire and a wind. So now let me go to Nahum, where he was saying that Yahweh is jealous, right? Speaks of revenge. And then he mentions here, Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind. As we know, the way of Yahweh is Yahushua, the doctrine taught by Mashiach, Yahushua, who said, I am the way. And the wind is the Ruach that came from Mashiach. So the doctrine, his way, is within the Ruach. And nobody can find it unless Yahweh reveals it to him. No one can control that whirlwind unless he becomes one with it by entering his way, for his way is in the whirlwind. And in the storm, like I mentioned, like thunder, which is his voice. And the clouds are the dust of his feet. As we know, he's coming with the clouds during spiritual storm, the end times, doing the will of the Ruach, yet perceived like a whirlwind, like a twister or hurricane, in the sense of how destructive it can be, like the plagues that are about to come, which are still part of his way, because is what's needed. He is rebuking the sea and dries it up. He is rebuking the sea and dries it up. He will rebuke the nations and they will cease to exist regarding those evil nations. Of course, not all. As we know, there will be nations, but those who are righteous or the closest to it from the nations. He's rebuking the sea and dries it up. And all the floods he has made dry. All the floods he has made dry. So this obviously speaking about his power to do whatever he wants, to stop that which can destroy everything, like the power of the sea, the floods. As we know, the first destruction of the whole world was through a flood, that of Noah. Here we are reading of Nahum. And it says, and all the floods he has made dry. He not only started the flood, he stopped it. And when we are going through a certain flood, trial, tribulation, is he who dries it up. Not our strength, not our will, only his will. And all the floods he has made dry. Bashan and Carmel are withering, and the flower of Lebanon is languishing. Bashan and Carmel, which are fruitful places, are withering. Like those who are successful according to the world, have a lot of money and all of that, fame, power, yet are evil, they will be withering pretty soon. No matter how fruitful they've been throughout their lives, throughout history as families or whatever. And the flower of Lebanon is languishing. Lebanon connects with Laban, which is white, also with the moon, which is called white, Lebanah. In the positive, the flower of Lebanon connects with Israel, with the people of Yahweh, which sadly the many are languishing, in the sense of the flower. Remember, Yahushua compared flowers with honor, esteem. This is whiteness, which is spiritually represents purity. So the honor of purity in this reality is languishing. There is no, people don't see any honor or good in being pure, in being set apart. The opposite is actually what they are seeking. In the negative, it will be the honor, the esteem of those who claim to be pure yet are not, like Laban, is languishing. Because Yahushua said regarding the tares and the wheat, that at the end it will be clear which ones are the wheat and which ones are the tares. So that is when their power to act as something they're not will be taken from them. So everybody will know who they are, what they are. Mountains have shaken before him. Mountains have shaken before him, the kingdoms of the world, and the hills have melted. And the hills have melted. Mountains refer to male, hills to females. So kings and queens, kingdoms and nations. Mountains have shaken before him, and the hills have melted. It mentions melted as it happens with metal. And as we know in the book of Daniel, we see that the kingdoms from Babylon till the end were made with metal or represented by metal. The last a mix of metal and clay. And they will eventually melt. And the earth is lifted up at his presence. The earth is lifted up at his presence. And the world and all who dwell in it. Who does stand before his rage? Who does stand before his rage? And who rises up in the heat of his displeasure? His wrath is poured out like fire, and the rocks have been broken by him. Rocks in the Hebrew thought are the strongest, something that works as a refuge, something on which you could stand and nothing could move it, and therefore wouldn't be able to move you. That's why we stand on the strong rock, which is Mashiach, our foundation. Yet when it comes to Yahweh, there is no rock that can stop him. He breaks all rocks. There's nothing, no refuge that the wicked can go to in order to be protected from what is coming to them. As we see in the sixth seal, they will go under the rocks, into the mountains, the caves, and ask for nature to cover them from the wrath of the Lamb, which is obviously impossible. He made nature, he controls it. His wrath is poured out like fire. As we see, Yahushua is the water. The last is coming like the fire. His wrath is poured out like fire. Also, because the comparison that I made was with Hallel, right? How they thought they were seeing the Almighty, but they were seeing an angel who then wanted to worship for himself. But also we have another angel that is not evil. In fact, what he does is to look for the honor of Yahweh, and that's why his name is Mikael, who is like the mighty one. He represents the mighty one, yet what he tries to do is find people to worship the mighty one, Yahweh. So it actually protects those people. But I mean, find people in the sense of when he appears on earth for the chosen few. And he comes like a fire, the voice, the wrath. So there is the wrath, the set apart wrath from Yahweh, which would be manifested through Mikael. And then the wrath that will be manifested through the fallen angels, in which pretty much they will be allowed to destroy those who have not the seal of the mighty one on their foreheads. My point with that is that what I was mentioning regarding Moshe, Eliyahu, and Mashiach was to show the separation between Yahweh as Ruach, as the still small voice, and the angels sent to bring judgment, revenge, as fire, as earthquakes, as whirlwinds. But now we are seeing Yahweh speaking as if he is, well, it's not the Ruach through Nahum, as if he is the fire, the voice, etc., because he's referring to Mikael coming to the earth, preaching, and the plagues happening. with the clouds, with the ruach, like thunder, his voice, to bring fire, to break all rocks. Remember that also to Yehezkel, whom the mighty one strengthens. Yahweh told Yehezkel that he would make his head, his forehead, harder than the shamir, which some translate as diamond, but is not a diamond. It's something even harder than the diamond, more dense than a diamond. It is what Shlomo used to cut the stones for the temple. So Yahweh says to Yehezkel that the people of Israel have a head like the stone. They have hard heads. Is Yahweh tells them to do something and they don't want to. They don't understand it. They whatever. They just don't allow the instruction of Yahweh to enter their heads, to permeate their foreheads. So Yahweh tells Yehezkel that he's sending him to break their heads. So he would make his head even harder than the head of Israel, which is interesting because if they are stubborn, then that means that the last will be even more stubborn in the true doctrine. So his head will become like the shamir in order to break the heads of those who have rebelled against Yahweh, who have heads of stone. So he will see his wrath is poured out like fire, and the rocks have been broken by him. So no matter the hearts of stone, heads like rocks, Yahweh sends the last as the consuming fire with the head of a shamir in order to break all rocks. So all false messiahs will be destroyed, mainly through the doctrine, through the true doctrine will be revealed who are false rocks. Which ones are the rocks that cannot be used as a refuge? Which rocks cannot save mankind? So that's why the rocks have been broken by him, the false doctrines. So the rocks have been broken by him, the strongest, the most secure, that which is closest to being immovable in this reality is easily broken up by the Most High Yahweh. Yahweh is good. I love this. For he is, in fact. And look how he's saying this right after all of this, right? Because one thing is for the wicked, and then another for those who know he is good, accept his goodness. And as we know, Yahushua came and he was called good, but he said, why do you call me good? Only one is good, he who is in heaven. Yahushua also said in John 3:13 that the Son of Man was in heaven as he was on earth. During the time Mashiach was on earth, he claimed the Son of Man was in heaven. So when Mashiach goes up, then the Son of Man comes down. And that's why the last is the Son of Man, and Mashiach would speak in third person regarding sometimes him, but as well referring to the coming of the last. And Yahushua is life. So the last is good, because one represents the tree of life, or is the tree of life, and the last is the tree of good and evil. That's why he comes like the prodigal son. So Yahweh told Mashiach, sit at my right hand until I go down and put your enemies as your footstool. So just like Mashiach came as the son, now Michael is coming as the representation of the Father. And since the Father is good, then Michael represents the good. Yahweh is good as a stronghold in the day of distress. After saying that he breaks all rocks, like I mentioned. So the contrast of him breaking all rocks, breaking all the strongholds of those who are wicked, yet he himself is the best stronghold, for Yahweh is good. in the day of distress, the tribulation. And he knows those who take refuge in him. That's wonderful. He knows those who take refuge in him. The 144,000 who will be taken to the prepared place during the day of distress, for they take refuge in him, and he knows them, for Yahweh is good. But with an overwhelming flood, he makes a complete end of the place of Nineveh, and darkness does pursue his enemies. As we know, darkness was one of the plagues from Egypt. And obviously they are in darkness, for they don't accept Yahushua the light. But it's saying darkness does pursue his enemies, so they will be even in worse darkness eventually. That's why they will fall into confusion eternally. But with an overwhelming flood, he makes a complete end of the place of Nineveh. Yahweh promised that this time the flood won't be of water. This time he's coming with fire, which we just saw. He mentioned fire, but he's now mentioning a flood. Just like there will be a flood of knowledge, of wisdom, of his ruach, but they will be actually drowned in that flood. I mean, the wicked, for they are in darkness. But with an overwhelming flood, he makes a complete end of the place of Nineveh, the abode of Ninus, and darkness does pursue his enemies. What do you plot against Yahweh? He makes a complete end of it. Distress does not rise up a second time. What do you plot against Yahweh? He makes a complete end of it. What the enemy is planning against the Most High, meaning the angels and the humans, Yahweh will stop it whenever he wants, as quick as he wants. The fact that they may be successful in any way is because Yahweh is giving them the capability and the opportunity to rebel against him in order to seal their own fates. What do you plot against Yahweh? He makes a complete end of it. Distress does not rise up a second time. If he makes a complete end of it, then they won't rise up again against him. For instance, Yahweh is good, so he gave the humans 3 chances. One through Mashiach, one about to happen with the 2 witnesses or happening, and the third at the end of the 1,000 years that is about to start. The millennium, at the end of it, the nations will get together and rise up against us. But that moment, Yahweh will bring fire from the heavens and burn them, so that that type of distress will not rise up ever again. And just to make it clear, at that moment, we won't have to do anything. He will do everything. So we should not be in distress at all. Therefore, we could say that this right here is referring to what is about to happen. That's why it mentions second time. Because the first time Mashiach came, they killed him. And then Yahweh allowed them to remain alive for 2,000 years. Now he's coming and they will kill him again. So he will make a complete end of it by that moment, so that they cannot rise up ever again. And even when they do it, they won't bring any distress to us at the end of the millennium. He makes a complete end of it. Distress does not rise up a second time. Yahweh will not allow them to rise up. Obviously, it is needed for them to kill the 2 witnesses for their testimony to happen. in order to bring down the enemy. But my point is that they won't have 2,000 years again. There won't be a second time for them to have 2,000 years to repent. That just happened, and that's just one shot. So distress does not rise up a second time. Though they are as entangled thorns and as drunkards with their drink, they shall be consumed like stubble, thoroughly dried. Though they are as entangled thorns represent sin. They have so much sin that they are pretty much entangled thorns. And as drunkards with their drink, they shall be consumed like stubble thoroughly dried. They are not wheat, they are not grapes, they are simply stubble that will burn when the fire manifests. They have drank the wine of the fornication of the great whore, so they are drunk. They have rejected Mashiach, so they are still in sin, entangled, and they will be eventually consumed by the fire as stubble. From you came forth one who plots evil against Yahweh, a counselor of Belial. Belial is the name of Samael, pretty much is the mighty one of disobedience, that of emptiness. So those who are empty in works, in fruits, is because they are disobedient. Those who are connected with, pretty much against the Torah in every way. So from you came forth one who plots evil against Yahweh, a counselor of Belial. Thus said Yahweh. And well, in this case, like I was saying, it kind of fits with Nimrod, but mainly with the beast of Revelation 13. From you, like Nineveh, came forth one who plots evil against Yahweh, a counselor of Belial. The beast will be the representation of Samael. Thus said Yahweh, though they are strong and many, even so they shall be cut off and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, I afflict you no more. So even though the enemy may be strong at the moment in comparison to the chosen, and they are much more people, those who are in wickedness than those who are in righteousness, though they are strong and many, even so they shall be cut off and passed away. They have multiplied because they have power, because of many reasons, but they will still be cut off and pass away. Though they are strong and many, even so they shall be cut off and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, I afflict you no more. So Yahweh has afflicted us because of our sins throughout history, as prophesied in Deuteronomy 28, that it would happen, and it did. But now Yahweh is promising us that he won't bring affliction any longer to his people. That affliction is now going to turn to the nations. Like he is saying right now, he is about to destroy the wicked, and he will stop afflicting the righteous. We have learned from the affliction, hopefully. And since they did not gave Yahweh the honor and credit for everything good that they have received throughout history, then they are about to go through punishment and affliction. So the tables are about to turn. And it is also the reason why Nahum brings comfort, as we are seeing here. Though I have afflicted you, I afflict you no more. So now I break his yoke from you and tear off your shackles. That's beautiful. Confirming what I just mentioned regarding the people of Israel. So now I break his yoke from you and tear off your shackles. It's taking away the power and authority that the enemy and the nations have had over us, so that we may serve him as we're supposed to. So now I break his yoke from you and tear off your shackles. And Yahweh has commanded concerning you, your name shall no longer be sown. Your name shall no longer be sown. Give me a moment, verse 14. Vetziva alecha Yahweh lo yizra mishmecha. And he commanded over you, Yahweh, not sown will be your name anymore from the house of your Elohim. So, well, what I wanted to see was the word he was using for sown. So it says, and Yahweh has commanded concerning you. And as I was saying, this fits with the congregation, meaning his people. And it also fits with Nahum giving a message to pretty much the witnesses to start. And I say that because he just broke the yoke. He tore off the shackles. And now he's saying, and Yahweh has commanded concerning you, your name shall no longer be sown. Remember that Yahushua came to be sown, for he is the root of David, and the last would come as a branch. So will no longer be simply sown, for he will grow and give fruit. It will not only be a root, now it will be a branch. Also, remember that Zerubbabel means sown in Babel. Babel connects with Nineveh. Here it is speaking to Nineveh, which represents Babel. And it is referring to the last saying, you shall no longer be called sown, as in Zerub, sown in Babel. Your name shall no longer be sown from the house of your mighty ones. I shall cut off the carved image and the molded image from the house of your mighty ones. Obviously talking to the those who worship false Elohim. From the house of your mighty ones, I shall cut off the carved image. So in this case, the fact that saying this right here, and Yahweh has commanded concerning you, your name shall no longer be sown. In this case, in the negative, when we see the rest of the context, it's pretty much saying, just like a nation that stands, it is like a tree that is sown. Yet, if something is not going to be called sown, in that contrast would be because he's about to be teared up, right? He's about to be cut off. So your name shall no longer be sown. From the house of your mighty ones, I shall cut off the carved image and the molded image, as in one of wood and one of metal, as in the false Messiah and the false Elohim, God. Yahweh is about to destroy those who people worship. I shall appoint your burial site, for you have been of no account. So yeah, when we see the context, the reason why he's not going to be called sown is because he's going to be cut off. What I was saying was referring to well, I already explained it, right? How it connects with Mashiach being the root, he was sown to bring the branch, and the last who is sown in Babylon, and the connection of Babylon with Nineveh. But I repeat, in context is referring obviously to Nineveh, that will be cut from the world in order for it not to be a nation anymore. For they have fallen into idolatry, which is the same as the whole world at the moment. So this, we could say, is a command concerning the world. Your name shall no longer be sown. From the house of your mighty ones I shall cut off the carved image and the molded image. I shall appoint your burial site, for you have been of no account. See on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news. So here it is. One verse after, right? See on the mountains the kingdoms of the world, the feet of him who brings good news. We see in Ephesians that the sandals that go on the feet represent the good news, the zeal to go and preach the good news. So the feet are connected with the good news. The feet are the end. That's why the feet of the statue that Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar saw on Daniel 2, the feet were the end of times. For head is Rosh, which is also root of Reshit, which is beginning. So the beginning of the body is the head. The end of it are the feet. And in fact, the heel is the very end of the body. That's why the serpent would bite the heel, because the serpent will kill the last at the very end. When the two witnesses come as the 2 feet of Yahweh. Mashiach came as a head, now the 2 witnesses as the 2 feet to bring the good news. 10 toes, like the 10 commandments. See on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims shalom. We see Nahum representing that person that is about to bring shalom. His name means comfort, consolation. And like I always say, in the book of Yirmiyahu, the prophet says that when a prophet appears on earth and he prophesies shalom, peace, and that shalom manifests, then that is the prophet that Yahweh sent. And although what he's saying in a way is kind of sarcastic because of the fact that throughout history, all prophets sadly brought news of plagues, of punishment, etc. But also because the last is about to bring the very end of that, and therefore the shalom will manifest right after him. So we see here, see on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news. Yahushua, obviously, we could say he brought good news because he came to die for our sins. I mean, he is the good news. The fact that he died for our sins and resurrected. And since I just put it like that, that's why the good news could not be given before he died, because it is his flesh, basar, that became the good news, besorot. So before he died, there were no good news, in the sense that there was no way for the nations to be justified before Mashiach had died, and even Israel, for they were lost. So the good news come after Mashiach died, and that's why it's referring to the feet, because they come at the very end. The 2 witnesses, like the feet, at the very end, like the feet, during the kingdom of clay and iron, like the feet. On the mountains, throughout the kingdoms of the world, the nations, who brings good news, besorot, the flesh of Mashiach, the true doctrine. Who proclaims shalom? Mashiach, when he came, that's one of the things that he said clearly. I did not come to bring shalom. So that shows that Yahushua is not this person. For he himself said that he did not come to bring shalom, but a sword and a fire. So this one that proclaims shalom is the last, who comes and says, the last plagues are about to happen and the shalom will manifest. See on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims peace. O Yahudah, celebrate your feasts, perform your vows. How important? Celebrate your feasts. So we must know what are those feasts and when they are supposed to be celebrated, for they are moedim, they are appointments, and therefore they must happen the time when he said, not when we decide. That's why we must take in account what the true calendar is in order to be able to fulfill those festivals. Perform your vows, for Belial shall no more pass through you. Look how it mentions the festivals, and then for Belial shall no more pass through you, and may this be fulfilled with this congregation in the name of Yahushua. For Belial shall no more pass through you. That's it. He doesn't have any permission to come even close to us. And what I was saying, the festivals, and then Belial shall not no more pass through you, like when during the feast of Pesach, the destroyer entered the houses of those who did not have the blood of the lamb on the door. So since we do have the blood of the lamb on the door of our hearts through our belief, because we have received the good news, which we see in the context of the same verse. Since we received the good news, we have the blood on our door, and therefore Belial cannot come in, pass through you, has to go over, which is the meaning of Pesach. He has to pass over, right? He has been cut off completely. Yeah. For Belial shall no more pass through you. He has been cut off completely. That's wonderful. Both death and disobedience represented by Belial. May Yahweh take everything away from us that may still be connected with disobedience, rebellion, anything that the inclination to evil may want us to do or think about. May Yahweh clean it up completely. He has been cut off completely. So that's how that verse ends. Yahoo 23:29, is not my word like a fire, declares Yahweh, and like a hammer that shatters a rock? That's right, and it's wonderful. That verse connecting with what I was mentioning regarding the rocks and how the Hebrew thought of rocks and what they represent. And like a hammer that shatters a rock. Yahushua came as a rock. Now the last comes as a hammer. But he won't break because it is impossible. Mashiach, but every false doctrine that claims that Mashiach is somebody else, they must be broken with the hammer. So is not my word like a fire, declares Yahweh, and like a hammer that shatters a rock? So with the word of Yahweh, we receive understanding. We start the fire in our minds, in our hearts. And then through knowing in our minds and hearts the word of Yahweh, we are able to shatter any rock that people may be using as a refuge or as a weapon against you, or that they may be standing on, and they don't know that it is just hardened sand, pretty much. And like a hammer that shatters a rock. So with the word of Yahweh, we'll be able to shatter any rock that they throw at us.